Hi everyone, it's Nizar Kinsella here. Just thought I'd give you a little update on the transfer window. I guess a lot of people have wanted to learn more. I'll just wait for a few viewers to roll in. We've got a couple in already, a few likes, and I really appreciate that. Yeah, guys, you can get your questions in. I can see anything you ask. I'm happy to go in there and update you guys a little bit. I know there's a lot of frustration around Chelsea, calling the club monitoring FC, interested FC. I've seen the memes and all that kind of stuff. And I get it. Sometimes Chelsea don't move as quickly as you'd like. And a lot of fans kind of feel the same way. So, yeah, feel free to get your questions in. I'm going to really focus the beginning of this video. We've already got a question in on this. From Beldin Love 13 about why did Marina leave. Marina Granovskaia is set to leave the club at the end of the season. The reports came out in the last few days. I was one of the guys reporting on it. It was a bit of a shock because we thought, Marina, she's gonna work until the end of the transfer window. And we kind of have had the situation explained to us. Chelsea has changed their board massively. So what's going to happen is, there's a whole new board coming in, and it's the same people that have bought Chelsea Football Club from Roman Abramovich. So you've got the likes of Todd Boehly. Todd Boehly is now the chairman, replacing Bruce Buck, and he's also created a new position for himself, interim sporting director. That means Chelsea are going to get a new sporting director after this transfer window is over. Now, he'll be advised by Marina, so she will be here for the transfer window, but we don't know how influential she will be. I think, from what I understand, Todd Boehly has actually been the most influential person in the transfer window so far for Chelsea. And that this structure change is why everything's moving a bit slowly as well. On top of that, you've got the Clear Lake Capital guys, Bedad Egbali, Jose Feliciano, Mark Walter, who works with Todd Boehly, is also on the board. Hansog Vis, one of the billionaires, he's a co-owner of Chelsea. Jonathan Goldstein, co-owner of Chelsea, he's also on the board. Barbara Sharon is on the board as well. She's like a PR, public relations person. Daniel Finkelstein as well. He's on the board, a columnist and executive editor of the Times. He's also a Chelsea fan, so is Barbara Sharon. And then there's a member of Clear Lake Capital, James Pade, as well. So these guys are all on the board, but it's Todd Boehly who's really running the show. Clear Lake Capital put in a lot of money in, and these guys were in the show. These guys have had to put in, a huge amount of money to buy Chelsea. It cost 2.5 billion, but they also put in extra money on top of that to take it to 4.25 billion. Now that is a lot of money that's going to be spent on transfers, but also on other areas of the club. They're ambitious. They're going to, build a new stadium. They're going to do all sorts of things. But, a lot of these things take time. And that's what's going on. So, Marina Granovskaia is going to stay on and advise, but she will leave at the end of the season. And her influence, is diminished by the takeover. Everyone who's close to Roman Abramovich will eventually leave. Or is expected to eventually leave. So that's what's going on, guys, around the ownership change. If you have any other questions, let me know. One of the great things that Todd Boehly has done, and this is what they want to do on transfers before I get into your questions, is they want to back Thomas Tuchel. If there's one guy they believe in at Chelsea, it's Thomas Tuchel. So they really think that he's the guy that is the future of the club. They see the way Liverpool's run with Jurgen Klopp at the heart of things, and they want to do that with Thomas Tuchel. So, they were ready to lose money on Romelu Lukaku. This is the first deal they worked on. This was the priority. It's a priority for many reasons. They had to go in because Inter needed it done early for tax reasons. It's just about money, really, at the end of the day. But for Chelsea, they were happy to move it along early as well. It's the first thing they've done in this transfer window that's big. They've decided to make a huge loss on Lukaku. Now they're paying 23 million euros a season. It's £100 million transfer, but they pay it in installments. Now they're only going to get 8 million euros back in terms of a loan fee with 2 million add-ons. Chelsea are effectively paying him to play for Inter, because they signed him for so much money. The good thing is they've got his wages off the book, and that means they're going to use the Lukaku sort of wage money to try and sign another player. Now, Lukaku isn't having his whole wage paid by Inter. He's taken a pay cut, gone there. Chelsea have to pay nothing. That works out great for Chelsea because he's the highest paid player. He's on £325,000 a week. So that money frees up, another big signing. Raheem Sterling, Manchester City's Raheem Sterling is seen as a really viable target. There's no other buyers in for him right now. It's like Chelsea or stay at Man City. He has huge wages, the huge wage demands. So they have space now for those kind of players. There's, we were joking earlier about interested FC. Chelsea are interested in a lot of players, but they've not made moves for a lot of them. That's because of their ownership situation. They've been sanctioned. They've had an ownership takeover. It kind of went into the transfer window a bit. And now they've had to restructure the board as well, and that's pushed things back. So everything just keeps getting pushed back, and it's making you guys frustrated. I know a lot of you guys are very frustrated. So, but they are interested in a lot of guys. There's Nkunku from RB Leipzig, great player. Rafinha from Leeds is somebody they've been interested in for a long time. Could pull a trigger there. Arsenal are trying to push ahead there. And Gabriel Jesus. Arsenal are trying to get ahead of Chelsea because they know as soon as Chelsea come in, Chelsea are the more dominant club. I think Chelsea agree with that sort of take as well. Chelsea are at a higher place in the market. They feel like they're above Spurs and Arsenal in the transfer market, and probably Man United just because they're slightly more stable than even Man United, but maybe not as stable as Man City and Liverpool. So that's kind of where Chelsea are in the transfer market right now. They can get better. It's not about money. It's almost about stability and how attractive you are to the players, and that's what's going on here. So they do believe they're going to have a good transfer window. So if you guys are panicking, if you guys are struggling, you need to be calm because they believe that it will all come together. And at the end of the day, the proof is whatever happens on deadline day. What the squad looks like then is the most important thing. Chelsea expects a transitional season. They've lost several players, in defence, and they need to replace them. And that's the priority. We were talking about attacking signings. You guys get most exciting about the forward areas of the pitch. But for Chelsea and for Thomas Tuchel, the defence is the priority. The ultimate priority is Jules Koundé still. They want to get that deal done. There's no problem with the player side. Barcelona are interested, yes. But Barcelona, realistically can't do anything. They're there, but they can't do anything. And also Sevilla sees Barcelona as a threat. So they don't want to give Barcelona a cheap deal. They'd rather cash in on interest from Chelsea. The sort of price they're quoting is 60 million euros, which works out about 55 million pound. Now, will Chelsea agree that? They should do, or something around that figure. There might be a bit of negotiation wiggle room, and that needs to be done. But they believe that the player wants to wait for them, and they also believe that they will get their man in the end. He's had a minor surgery; it's not a problem for the deal. But yeah, Jules Koundé really is the one they want. And I know there's a lot of names around that it disorientates people, but when it comes to big clubs, they often have one guy they really want, and they go for him, and then they move on to the next one. There's a priority list, and Jules Koundé is top of that. So for me, it should happen eventually. If you guys can wait that long, but yeah, it should happen eventually. The other priority is getting Gabriel Slonina, who is a really unbelievably talented 18-year-old American goalkeeper. He wants to join Chelsea. They already had a deal agreed before the sanctions. Then it got cancelled, and they've had to do it again. He's still waiting for Chelsea. There was some talk of Real Madrid and other clubs, but really he's just waiting for Chelsea. Other clubs will try and pounce on him, but he's waiting for Chelsea. He's going to be signed and loaned back, probably signed for around £10 million fee or so. And that's the other priority that you'll probably hear about soon. They've signed a guy called Eddie Beach from Southampton as well. The academy signings are going through. There's loads of them going through. Women's team, all going through, but men's team, which is the most expensive area to invest in, has been a bit slow, admittedly, but this will happen. It's just a case of getting through the priority list, sorting out the easy jobs, the urgent jobs, and then working your way through. This is Todd Boehly. He's a big, important guy, and he's hands-on. He's doing the job himself. He's literally going through it himself after sorting out buying the club, after sorting out the board. So that's why, you're getting delays. I'll look at a few of your questions in a minute, but I wanted to talk about my story that I wrote yesterday. before this news broke. Jonathan Klaus is a legitimate target from Lens. He's a right wing back. He's got the most goal involvements in Europe. Plays for France, 4 appearances. He's 29 years old, so he's quite old for a kind of player Chelsea target. But he's in great physical condition. He's got an Edouard Mendy type story, like rags to riches, and he's a Chelsea fan. So there's a lot of positives there. Chelsea do legitimately like him. He can play left wing back, right wing back. He can replace Azpilicueta. He can replace Alonso. They can sign him even if he doesn't, because you can move Azpilicueta to centre back and he can play right wing back. Reece James is still the main man, but he's thought of a really competitive squad option that they can add to the squad and improve, because they want to improve those squad options. A lot of those guys in the squad spots have not done that well over the last year, as you know. There's other centre backs being targeted, Gvardiol, Kimpembe, and more, but Koundé is the main guy. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. I'm going to look into a few of your questions, but player sales as well is going to be a big thing. So Chelsea believe they'll make a lot from player sales. They've got West Ham looking at Brozier for 30 million. Loads of those loanees could be sold. Squad players like Alonso and Azpilicueta have Barcelona interest. There's loads going on there as well. But I guess you're probably more focused on incoming players. So let's have a look. Let's see if I've missed any questions. Is Ziyech leaving for AC Milan? I've been asked. I don't know about Milan. They've shown an interest in the past, absolutely. So it could be a really viable option for them. They do have a creativity problem and a goal scoring problem that he can be involved in. I do think he's one of those up for sale. I really do. You're looking at Werner as well. He could be for sale. But they're kind of expensive and they've got big wages. I think he's one of the easier ones to sell. But yeah, I'd expect, potentially he could go, and he was good friends with Lukaku as well. And I don't know if that will work against him, because Thomas Tuchel has a lot of power now in this transfer window. I've got another question. Do I think Lukaku's cheap price tag was ridiculous? Absolutely. It's got to go down as one of the all-time poor transfers, one of the all-time disasters. In terms of, I'm not talking just Chelsea, I'm talking Premier League, world football. 100 million to a loan is ridiculous. The only thing that could work out well in Chelsea's favour is if he actually does well at Inter, and then teams are desperate to buy him. But they're going to make a huge loss on him, and it's a disaster. And it's something the new owner will want to address. He's looking at the problems that Chelsea have had signing number 9 out down the years. Werner, Higuain, Morata. There's loads of them. He's going to want to change that. He's going to want to be a lot better at getting those things right. Good question here from Prince Ezuego. Number 1, he says, are we going to buy a new striker? I'll just sum it up like that. The kind of striker Chelsea could sign is more of a Sterling profile, is a pressing forward, is a wide forward. I think Chelsea are open to a different profile. This is going to be built around Thomas Tuchel. You could see Chelsea go with a false 9 for a season. Kai Havertz has done pretty well systemically at Chelsea. He needs more goals, but he's done well. And you could see a backup option of that profile. There's players in the squad that can do false 9. Werner is probably a proper 9, but you got Pulisic, you got Sterling, who does it a lot. So things like that. Koulibaly's been asked about. I think that is potentially something Chelsea could do. It's not one of the names I've heard at the front of the list. I listed some defenders there. We're talking interested FC here, but certainly a lot of those kind of things, are in the pipeline. Chelsea are aware of the situation of these players, and they'll be talking to them. We're not seeing any, tracks in the sand. They've not made any moves for the Koulibaly or the players further down the list. They have for Jules Koundé. They have made contact. They have been talking to Sevilla, but they've not for a lot of the other guys. Gabriel Sansom asked about Reece James contract renewal rumours. Nothing is happening right now. Again, interest FC, but I think that Reece James is a no-brainer. And when the takeover is happening, actually, I know that the ownership group were quite alarmed by Reece James's contract situation and Mason Mount's contract situation, 2 of the lowest paid players at Chelsea. And they need to have their deals renewed. Dembele's been mentioned as well, and Richarlison. Yeah, again, we're talking interested FC here. There's nothing concrete for either. Richarlison's got loads of interest. It's very similar to Rafinha's situation. Loads of big clubs interested. No one's really pulling the trigger on him. I think almost some of these media reports are to attract attention. He wants to move. Rafinha wants to move. They're very gettable for 60 million sort of pound. But until a club comes and puts that money on the table, starts making bids, we don't really know. Chelsea have always liked Richarlison, and I should have mentioned him earlier, but it's not something I've written about because it's not concrete yet. I don't want to be pushing those kind of stories really to you guys. I know you get frustrated with all that sort of stuff. Geraldo asked about Dujon Sterling. Will he be given a chance in the new season? There's a lot of players in the Dujon Sterling category. I mean, even Conor Gallagher to a certain extent, but these loanees have to come back in pre-season, really prove themselves, and also get very lucky that Chelsea don't sign a player in their position. At the moment, Chelsea are looking at players in Dujon Sterling's position. He can play left wing back, right wing back, centre back. He's a really versatile defender, really physically good. He was as good as Reece James in the academy, got a lot of injuries and illness, and he's still capable of playing for Chelsea. And he could get his chance. Trevor Chalobah is seen as one of those kind of players who nobody thought about Trevor Chalobah before. The summer this time last season, nobody was thinking about him, but come the start of the season, he's starting every week. So Dujon Sterling's capable of doing that, but he needs to be chosen, and he needs to prove himself at the same time. He's trying to do that. Conor Gallagher's in that category. Armando Broja's in that category. Levi Colwell's in that category as well. These guys, everything's possible. Ethan Ampadu as well, great loan. They could be sold, loaned, or they could play for Chelsea next season. I'm going on the preseason tour in the United States, so I'll try and keep you updated on these things, and I will do. I'm getting a lot of messages about Koulibaly. I feel like I've gone in on that, but not yet. There's nothing concrete there. Similar for Dembele. The interest has been reported about a lot, but our Chelsea going in, the latest is that Barca are actually going to try and renew him again. So I think they're trying to attract attention. There's contract negotiations going on. Dembele's people want as much money out of Barcelona as they possibly can. Barcelona want to pay him the least as they possibly can. Chelsea are being used a little bit as as a ploy to talk up the wages and things like that. So there's going to be a lot of that going on, a lot of games in the transfer window, and you guys are going to have to stay strong around it. Jonathan Klaus, I talked about that guys earlier in the video. Feel free to go back and talk about it. He's a really concrete target. I didn't even talk about Chelsea scouting his last 50 games. Klaus, I know that much is true. They've also sort of sent people to watch him directly. They've also made some contact with him as well about a possible move. They know the price as well. It's going to be about 10 million. So Klaus is a real target and a real great option. There's other people, more and more names are being dropped. Neymar situation, don't expect Neymar to move at all. Absolutely not. For one, Thomas Tuchel, it didn't work that well with him at PSG. He was okay, but it wasn't a match made in heaven. I don't think he needs superstars in his squad. I think, the kind of player Thomas Tuchel and Todd Boehly want aren't those superstars. Romelu Lukaku was the biggest superstar in Chelsea's squad, and look what happened. They want humble young players who they can coach and make a great system and make a great success of it. And they want to create superstars. And I think that is how you get excellence in modern football. Man City have very few superstars, maybe Haaland aside. And I think Chelsea see things differently. Yet Martins Akinola asked the inevitable question about Declan Rice to Chelsea. Of course he's a target. Of course they're interested. I mean, that's not even a secret, is it? West Ham have an opportunity to keep hold of him if they want to. It'll cost a lot. He's still got 2 years left in his deal, but there's an option for an extra year. So I don't think West Ham will be panicking just yet. So Chelsea can make it happen if they spend a lot. There have been a lot of talks around the new owners trying to get a marquee signing. He seems like the most obvious one, but there's not any footprints really yet that I know of that suggest that Chelsea are going to do it this transfer window. It's certainly not the biggest priority anyway. And also, they have to shift out N'Golo Kante and Jorginho, who we haven't mentioned, who only have 1 year left on their contract. They could opt to get rid of those. A lot of those kind of things will probably be priorities, and probably hear about them in the coming weeks. So it's quite exciting. This is the kind of stuff we're going to hear about a lot in the next few weeks. A lot of you guys are just putting in names of players that I've literally never heard linked to Chelsea, like Jared Bowen and Tonali and things like that. They're all great players, of course, but we could put any great player. Chelsea are aware of all the great players around Europe, and whenever I talk about interest, I'm talking about Chelsea actually scouting them and seeing them as viable options and having contacts with the people around those players. I'm not just talking about good players in Europe. So yeah, they're all great players. They all could maybe join Chelsea someday. They're the right kind of profile, but there's nothing in it yet. Guys, I'm going to wrap up here because I don't want to go into too much extra stuff. But I hope you guys have sort of had a bit of insight into what the transfer window will look like, what the new ownership structure will look like. I'll reply to some comments later as well, maybe, on the text. So you guys all get the, your questions answered as best I can. All right. Take care. It was really good chatting to you. I really like the engagement, and I guess I'll do this again sometime because you guys really liked it. So brilliant stuff. Thank you.